next day, I think Prabhupada came on the 3rd of July. The next day was the 4th of July, 1974. Sri Govinda was president. He said to me, Tranakarta, Srila Prabhupada's writing letters in his room. Don't let anybody in. And we gave Srila Prabhupada the whole brahmachari ashram that year. Everybody moved out. And it was an old YMCA building, so it was a big quarters back there. Many different rooms. So he said, don't let anybody in this room, stand outside this door, and don't let anybody in. And it was vacant back there because that was Prabhupada's quarters, the whole back. And he said, he probably won't come out, so don't worry. He's, I'm like, okay. So I'm standing by Prabhupada's door, and sure enough, a minute later, right after Sri Govinda leaves, Prabhupada comes out, opens the door, walks. I hit the floor, pay my obeisances. Prabhupada walked into the back bathroom. And when he came back, I was still on my knees. And in one swift motion, Srila Prabhupada walked past me, put his hand on my head, said, Hare Krishna, and walked in his room. But when Srila Prabhupada put his hand on my head, it was like a lightning bolt had hit me. That's how I can describe it. I was completely just surcharged with ecstasy. I mean, I was ecstatic, and I was experiencing emotions. I wanted to start chanting and dancing, and I was like really ecstatic. And a couple minutes later, Sri Govinda walks in to check on me, and as he turned the corner, he looked at me and he stopped, and he's going, Tranakarta, you're glowing. And I just tried to say, Prabhupada, and he said, no, you're glowing. And I said, Prabhupada just touched my head. So Prabhupada touched my head and gave me unlimited mercy, made me ecstatic. One walk, we were walking with Prabhupada, all the sannyasis, there must have been 15 sannyasis, maybe 15 devotees on the walk, probably 30 people at least. And Prabhupada was walking by Northwestern University up in Evanston in Illinois, a very beautiful place, the college grounds. Anyway, Prabhupada walked under one tree, and it had all these little white flowers on them. Very beautiful. And the branches were hanging down. So Prabhupada was looking at the flower. He stopped, and he's looking at the flowers. Then he grabbed one, put it behind his ear, started to walk. He took like 2 or 3 steps, stopped, looked at all of us, and went. So we all started picking flowers and putting them behind. It was like a picture right out of the 60s, It was pretty blissful. And then as we walked down, I remember Prabhupada sat in the sand, and he started, we put our chutters down for him, and he started to talk about the material scientists, how they dig up bones, Prabhupada says. They dig up bones, and Prabhupada started digging in the sand with his hands. He was going, they're digging, just like the dog. He said, they dig up these bones, and they think they have conclusive evidence how life began. Of course, he's blasting the scientists. I remember that was very nice, very ecstatic walk. One guy came pulling up on his bicycle, and he said, he looked at the sannyasis, and he said to Srila Prabhupada, how come some of these guys are carrying sticks? And Prabhupada said, what did he say? I was standing right next to Prabhupada. He said, what did he say? And I think Tamal said, he wants to know why we're carrying these sticks, Prabhupada. And he said, tell him to chase away dogs. And everybody just started laughing. The guy was kind of bewildered when we invited him to the temple. I'm not sure if he came or not. But in another time, on a morning walk in Chicago, another guy was walking by, and he saw Prabhupada, and he was probably just very awed by looking at Prabhupada, just an ordinary person. And he said, what do you think about the coming of Christ? And Prabhupada said, your Messiah has already come. And we all, Jai Prabhupada. When Prabhupada came back to Chicago in 1976, I remember that. Prabhupada he was so kind and merciful that he could take away your anxiety just by his glance, So in Chicago, I had been learning to play the mridanga. Prabhupada came in 74, the next time was 76. So I was practicing mridanga for tapes, kirtans, just playing. So I got pretty good. So the next time Srila Prabhupada came, I wanted to play in the kirtan, and, for his pleasure. And when I went to back where the big devotees were leading the kirtan, I grabbed my mridanga. They went like, no, you can't play. So I was like really hurt, I won't mention any names. But I was kind of hurt, so I kind of made my way back up to the Vyasa-san because I was the Kshatriya at the temple and I was supposed to be close to Prabhupada, And so when I got close to Prabhupada, and I got up to the Vyasa and I kind of looked. He was looking at me before I even looked up at him. And he just smiled so big. He knew. He just took away all my bad, everything gone. Just gave me his mercy, I remember the exact date I landed. September 13th, 1976 was the first time I ever went to India as a brahmachari. And I arrived in Delhi, and the devotee said, Prabhupada's in Vrindavan. So I just said, really? I didn't know even Prabhupada was in Vrindavan. So I went straight to Vrindavan. And I think I led a Sandhya Artik, the evening Artik that night. So the next morning I was standing out chanting japa after Mangal Artik, and Hansaduta Maharaj at the time came up to me and he said, Tranakarta, Srila Prabhupada wants to see you in his room. And I was like, I thought he was joking, so I said, joking. He goes, no, Prabhupada wants to see you now, so let's go. Okay. So I go in Srila Prabhupada's room. I pay my obeisances, and I'm very nervous, And I get up on my knees, and Prabhupada just come up, just standing by the door. He was just standing there, and he looked at me, and he said, you are playing mridanga very nicely. He said, where have you learned these things? And I said, from tape Srila Prabhupada and playing a kirtan. I said, but it's all your mercy. He said, Jai. And then he said, and then he said something that really was, to me, really touched me. He said, I remember you from America. And I was like, Jai Prabhupada. Then he pointed down to his harmonium. He said, so you can play? And I said, yes, Prabhupada. And he sat behind his harmonium. He started singing to Krishna. And actually, Harikesh was recording some of it. He was in the room. And I just started playing for Prabhupada. It was amazing. And it was very, very transcendental atmosphere, to say the least. I mean, the drum was just playing itself. I was really just like awed watching Prabhupada. 1974, Srila Prabhupada was in his room, and Pundarik Prabhu, who was a Chicago devotee, his father was vice president of Playboy magazine. His mother was one of the big writers for the Chicago Tribune. They're big people. And they came to see Srila Prabhupada. The mother was very respectful to devotees. She she wrote many favorable columns in our favor in the Chicago Tribune. Father wasn't so convinced. So Prabhupada was talking and started talking about meat eating and all this, and the guy started to have a conversation with Prabhupada. He started to debate Prabhupada a little bit, and they started to get a little bit, aggressive about it. So as Prabhupada was preaching to him very nicely, and as this guy was getting aggressive, then Prabhupada just finally stopped because the guy was so puffed up. He said, then why don't you eat your own son? And here's Pundarik sitting right now. Whoa, boom, complete silence, man. That was it. Complete silence. He just fried that guy right on the spot. One thing I always remember about Srila Prabhupada was how much he cared and how much he loved the devotees, I can remember every morning that he would come out of his room and he would come right up to me and he would say, so how are you this morning? Like a concerned father. And he meant it, There wasn't anything that got past Srila Prabhupada. He would come out. I remember one day we were walking around, we would circumambulate Krishna and Balaram, on the outside of the temple there, on the temple grounds, you know what I mean? In the old days, there was that iron gate in the front, and it had a chain around it with a padlock. And we were walking, chanting japa with Prabhupada. And you couldn't see that the lock was unlocked. The Prabhupada just looked at one of us and said, why is the lock unlocked? And we all kind of looked at each other like, you can't tell the lock's unlocked, So one devotee ran up, and sure enough, it wasn't shut. But you could not tell from the naked eye. There was really nothing that got by him. Or he'd come out another morning and say, "Why did Chokidar did not ring the bell at 2 o'clock in the morning?" Right? He knew. Next day, why did Chokidar did not ring the bell at 3 o'clock? There was nothing that got by Srila Prabhupada. He knew everything, down to in Krishna's service, down to minute little things that we were oblivious to. So I always play. So as I would like to play mridanga for him when he sang Jai Radhamadava, especially. I love to play, and I know that Prabhupada really liked when I was playing because I would follow him very nicely. And I only got 3 or 4 beats I'd throw in, but Prabhupada liked it so much, and it was just so. The mercy I was getting was lasts forever. It's what keeps me going right now. But one morning, I had the drum on my lap, and Prabhupada was just getting ready to sing Jai Radhamadava, and Hanksadutta Maharaj said, "Let me have the drum, I want to play today." I said, "Sure, no problem, Maharaj, give me the drum." And Prabhupada chanted one line, Jai Radhamadava. I won't even try to imitate how Prabhupada chanted. And then after one line, Hanksadutta's playing, Prabhupada opens his eye, and he goes. I give Tranakarta the drum. It just went like this, though. I grabbed the drum. So he just kept showering this unlimited mridanga mercy on me. And it continued through my whole stay in India. If we went to a village or wherever we went to do a program at somebody's house, after Prabhupada spoke in their room, he would look at me and go, "Play mridanga," start singing. So I got a lot of mridanga mercy on that. One time we were in Prabhupada's room in Vrindavan, and Jagadish was there, myself, a few other devotees. But Prabhupada was speaking Hindi to the guests, and we couldn't really understand too much. And Jagadish, I don't think, could understand anything. So we sat there, and it was, of course, ecstasy, just seeing Prabhupada, his exchanges with these people, So after the guests got up to leave, and Prabhupada was graciously walked them out to the door, and they said something to Jagadish, the guests. And they were big guests, like political guests or whatever they were. And they said something to Jagadish, of course, in English. And Jagadish replied, "Acha." Like you say, "Acha." Like all the devotees say, "Acha," right? And Prabhupada said, "Just see, speak in Hindi." The whole room just busted up, man. We were just laughing so hard. But like I was saying before, how concerned he was about the devotees and how much he loved us and cared about us. It was wintertime then, it was like October, November, whatever it was, but we were sitting on, Krishna Balaram Mandir on the marble on the floor. And one morning it was especially cold, and Prabhupada looked down at us and he said, "You are cold?" I'm like, "Yes, Prabhupada." So that day he had myself and another devotee, I can't remember his name, Krishna, my god brother. Anyways, Prabhupada had us go to Agra and get all these madras, big, carpets to roll down on the floor for all the devotees so they would stay warm. He was always concerned about our health and like that. Like a loving father, Besides being the savior of the whole world, he was like a loving father to all of us, Hari Sari Prabhu was Srila Prabhupada's servant at the time. He was very kind to me. He would always give me little things to do for Srila Prabhupada. So he said at the Toronto, "I just washed Prabhupada's clothes. I'm going on the roof to hang them so they dry." They used to hang the clothes up. He said, "If Prabhupada rings his bell, he has some political guests in there. Please go in and see what he wants." Okay, Jai. He says he probably won't ring the bell. We just served him prasadam, so I'll be down in a few minutes. Okay. So as soon as Hari Sari leaves, of course, same thing, right? Ding, 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 ding. Bell rings. I go running in. "Yes, Srila Prabhupada." He said, "More puris for the guests." "Yes, Srila Prabhupada." I run out. Boom. Run back to the kitchen. "More puris. Srila Prabhupada needs more puris for the guests." "Oh, we don't have any more. We're out of flour. We can't make any more." I'm like, "What? What? I can't go back in and tell Prabhupada there's no puris." "Well, Prabhu, we don't have any more puris." And I'm such a fool. It's like, instead of making them or doing something, I just went back in the room. And up to this point, my relationship with Prabhupada was always just like a loving, there was never any chastisement. And when I said that, Srila Prabhupada, there's no more puris. Oh, he just was furious. He said, what do you mean there are no more puris? There must always be prasad. And he's like yelling at me. And I didn't realize till later on, actually Hari Sari told me just a few years ago in Mayapur, that that letter had just gone out. Prabhupada was just really upset about Kumbh Mela. So I got the backlash of that, whack. But it was mercy, I kind of felt bad, but it was mercy. So there's another story. I didn't know if I wanted to tell this one, but I will. Because some of my other God brothers have confirmed this, that you could be in a room with a bunch of devotees, and Prabhupada could reveal something to you that the other people in the room cannot see. I don't know if you've ever had that experience, but a few of our God brothers have. I've had the experience. One morning in Delhi, it was a wet morning, kind of drizzly, moist, and we went to a park with Srila Prabhupada. We drove. We got out of the park and walking. And that morning, Prabhupada was not saying a word. He was just chanting, very heavy, very intense. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So we're walking with Prabhupada down the path, and we're just all chanting. So all of a sudden, Prabhupada goes off the path onto the grass. And it's kind of wet, so we're wondering, where's Prabhupada going? And we're walking through this park. All of a sudden, he comes up to this little hill, and there's 3 trees. 2 on the side and 1 in the back. So it made a little cave in there. They were only this high. It's like big bush trees. So we could see Prabhupada's walking right for these trees. So we run ahead and put our chatters in there. Prabhupada walks right in and sits down. Still chanting, not saying a word. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. All of a sudden, to my eyes, Srila Prabhupada started to emanate an effulgence that was incredible. So incredible, it lit up the whole inside of that thing, and I could not make out Prabhupada's features. It was completely molten gold. And I was sitting there just awestruck, watching Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada came back, a minute. It seemed like forever. But when he came back, he looked in the distance, and there were 2 men walking 3 football fields down. It was quite a distance. If it was somebody you knew, you probably wouldn't have recognized him. You wouldn't have known who it was. Probably goes, those 2 men, I know them. We're all like, okay. He goes, yes, I used to buy paper from them before I came to America for my Back to Godhead magazine. I'm like, wow, Prabhupada. And he said, go see. He sent 2 devotees, go running. They start disappearing, You come back with these 2 guys, sure enough. These are 2 guys, and they paid their obeisances to Prabhupada, and they were so emotional and so ecstatic to see Prabhupada. It was really something to see. That's a story I usually kept for myself because I don't know if people can understand it, but it's true. Why did I see that? I have no idea. Causeless mercy. Yeah, definitely. Prabhupada told us many times Krishna would come down and sit next to him and tell him exactly what to say. So maybe I got a little glimpse of Krishna pulling up in his chariot. I don't know. I have no idea, but it was really a beautiful thing. And New York was ecstatic. I remember devotees were cleaning. Prabhupada loved the rooftop. He'd sit up on the roof, on 55th Avenue there. So the devotees were cleaning that whole building. They were just cleaning, making it spotless. But there's one little shack that was up on the roof, like a storage little thing where you put mops and stuff. And devotees were just throwing stuff in there, thinking Prabhupada's not going to go in there and look, right? Prabhupada, why would he go into a utility thing and look in there, So they were throwing stuff in and put a lock on it. So there's no way Prabhupada's going to. So Prabhupada took a tour of the whole building, how we would usually do. And went upstairs on the roof. So when he came out into the rooftop, the first thing he did, boom, right to that shack. I can see the faces of these devotees. No, it's like, Prabhupada goes, what is in here? Oh, it's just storage, Prabhupada. Open it. I opened the thing, man. It's like all this junk in there, and Prabhupada just like made a face. Just he didn't even say anything. I don't remember. I don't think he even said anything. It was just like, and everybody's like, oh man, it's like, clean this or this is nonsense. He knew everything. That's what I was saying before. He knew every aspect of everything that had to do with devotional service to the Lord. There's no doubt that every little aspect he knew. Things that we were completely oblivious to, he knew. Bhishma was, she loved Prabhupada. In Calcutta, one day, she would come in Prabhupada's room when he was with guests, and she would just start talking. And I remember we were in there one day, and Prabhupada was with some guests talking. She came in the room, talking in Bengali, and Prabhupada said, "Old woman, sit down." And she just like sat right down, didn't say a word. And one day I was sitting out in outside of Prabhupada's room in Calcutta, that terrace outside, the balcony like, and I was sitting there, and she always carried a little, that I could see, she always carried a little bottle of Ganga water under her sari, like under here somewhere. She had a little bottle of Ganga water. And the first time I realized it was she came up to me, and she went under her sari like this and poured some in her hand, and that went like this. Poof, right in my face. And she goes, "Ganga gel." It's just ecstatic, laughing, That's how we remember Srila Prabhupada's sister. And yeah, I really enjoyed seeing her around. She looked, she looked a lot like Prabhupada. You could tell they were brother and sister. And you could tell Prabhupada really loved her too. Yeah. And I got to go on a couple morning walks in New York. I remember one in particular. Like Prabhupada was talking, we were walking in Central Park, and there was a tree, and a big dead branch from the tree fell. Big branch fell, it was dried up, dead. Prabhupada took his candies. This is our modern society. Dead. Why are they dead? Because they are disconnected from Krishna. I always remember that. Another time, Sri Govinda's son, Sudarshan, was in Prabhupada's room. Sri Govinda was present in 74. And he had a crayon or something. There was Prabhupada had a picture of Bhaktisiddhanta there. And he just, the kid, a little kid, he was like 2 or 3, just had his crayon and he went like, and Prabhupada just, "Don't you do that to my Guru Maharaj." And actually then Sri Govinda's wife, I think, took Sri Darshan out of the room. And then Sri Govinda was feeling a little bad. And then Prabhupada said, "When the child is a rascal when he was young, it means he will grow up, he will be a great soul." He told Sri Govinda. Just took away all his anxiety. Prabhupada woke us up to how fragile this material world is and how deep-rooted we are in it, And he wanted us to get out of here. He wanted us to get out of here. Chant Hare Krishna. Wherever Prabhupada went, they would ask him, right? Well, how can we please you in the best way? Sometimes he'd say, learn Bhagavad-gita, right? But most of the time he would say, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. That's what he really wanted from us. You have to work like an ass to make a few bucks. Krishna will provide. Just chant Hare Krishna. Always remember Krishna. Everything for Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. And that was his mercy on us. He gave us Krishna. He gave us the holy names. He gave us the movement of Lord Chaitanya. Wow. This personality. This divine grace. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Je anilo premadana Karuna prachur